So we should be live now if it's letting me. Yeah. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Typical Skeptic podcast. We have the legend Kerry Cassidy with us. We're going to be getting into some amazing information. We're going to play the Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Typical Skeptic podcast. I'm really honored to have my guest on today. I don't know if you guys heard that. I said I'm really honored to have my guest on today. This is someone whose information I was watching before I even had a podcast. I started my podcast in 2020, so 5 years ago. But this woman has been doing her thing since 2005. And I wrote a blurb about tonight, and she's really influenced, like the information that I perceive, and and she's really been a beacon for disclosure. But who we have with us tonight is the amazing Kerry Lynn Cassidy. She's the founder and CEO of Project Camelot, one of the most iconic and trailblazing disclosure platforms in the alternative media history. Since 2005, she's traveled the world filming guerrilla-style interviews with whistleblowers, military insiders, researchers exposing Black projects, ET contact, the secret space program, AI, and global conspiracies. Her interview style, raw, intuitive, and fearlessly unfiltered, has become legendary in the truth community. With over 3,000 interviews and documentaries archived and a book titled Rebel Gene, Secret Space and the Future of Humanity, Kerry's work has cracked open hidden realities for millions. Her former YouTube channel amassed over 70 million views before being deleted for speaking truth during the pandemic. Tonight on the Typical Skeptic podcast, we go deep into real-time spiritual warfare, AI takeover agendas, time travel ops, ET alliances, consciousness evolution, and what Kerry sees coming for humanity. Project Camelot isn't just media, it's a mission. So don't miss this one. And I just found out Kerry has a Substack. You guys can check out her Substack, but the main website is projectcamelotportal.com, and she also has a Rumble channel, which is Project Camelot on Rumble. And you can get her book, Rebel Gene, which is available on Amazon. With all that said, I'd like to give her a big warm welcome to the show for the first time. Kerry, thank you so much for coming on. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm really good, thanks. Yeah. I didn't know where to start tonight. Maybe we could get into, I guess, like something that's on everybody's mind is Trump. Like, you seem to be really outspoken about Trump. What do you think is going on? I mean, because there's talk of the Golden Dome, and we hear stuff about Palantir. So are there white hats? I mean, where do you see that whole thing going and the whole?
Well, I've dealt with the white hats from before they went public. One of the main white hats is 107. Of course, you know that, I hope. And they're real. They're for real. They're an organization that tries to be very secretive. But Trump is a white hat, and he's, they're the ones that are Q. They've got Q, and they did Q. And, Trump is a major Q. I think they call him Q plus. And, so I'm not sure what to say about them other than they're real. And I've been writing articles about them and the things they do. So I'm not always in agreement with things they do. Like I agree with their platform, which is basically taken from John F. Kennedy when he was assassinated. His whole drive to do everything he wanted to do, that's what Trump wants to do. So, and the white hats are supporting him. And so that's really what I'm supporting. But I don't always like their tactics. Their tactics have actually, in some cases, been borrowed from the Illuminati, what we call the Illuminati. And so, some of that rubs me the wrong way. I think that we have a lot of things to unpack. I think that Trump has a lot to unpack, and so do the white hats, about how they conducted themselves over the past 4 years before he got back in office. And I'm a precog, so I have precog dreams that do come true. And I saw him coming back into office and him exporting a lot of so-called illegal aliens. And so I saw that a couple of years in advance. And, I now have also some things I've seen in the future that haven't happened yet. So we'll see. I saw the Chinese. I was told the Chinese were going to invade through our border and that we would let them in, or they were let in. And so that happened. So some of my dreams absolutely do happen. So I pay attention to them.
Yeah.
Now, as far as
I think
Palantir was,
sorry.
no, it's all right. It's just, if you want me to answer all the little bits and pieces you just said. So Palantir obviously was something that Snowden revealed. Snowden came out, I think it was really quite a long time ago now, maybe 2008, I'm guessing. And he revealed the existence of Palantir. But you can believe that something like Palantir existed even before that. It's a surveillance program, and it's been outed. So just look it up. But, basically, Trump is also allowing this to happen. I mean, Trump and the White Hats basically are fighting a cabal that goes into the deep state and have also come from the reptilian hybrids that took over our planet and, that we're battling right now. So they don't always do what I consider to be like the good thing. They do what is necessity requires for them to accomplish their mission. So a lot of people do not understand that at all. And when you do understand it, like I write articles to explain their actions from the various perspectives. And then I also do commentary on their actions. So if you really want to know what I think about white hats and Trump and all that, it's all on my Substack. I started it a year ago as a compliment to my website, because I used to write articles on my website all the time, but no one would see them because they were always interested in my videos. So I gave them a special place when I was blocked from my website about a year ago. And I just started it a year ago. And so, it doesn't have a ton of subscribers yet, but that's okay. I mean, at least some people see it and, and they donate to me there, which is really nice. But I write all kinds of articles there.
Yeah, I think Substack is the place to be. Like I'm sure whistleblower Penny Bradley. She has a Substack, and like a lot of people are starting. Like it seems like a lot of people are jumping onto Substack. We're all like Robert Stanley has a great Substack. I mean, it's amazing. But what I wanted to ask you was I guess you've asserted that Donald Trump is involved in some like timeline protection plan, potentially connected to like Project Looking Glass or AI timeline manipulation. I wanted to ask you about that.
Well, first you have to understand sort of where things are at. So, Biden was dead. He never took office. They gave him a funeral. So I've known that. MAGA people have known that. We've known that now for, however many years ago that was, 5 or 6 or whatever. And so we knew that the Biden clone or the Biden, actor, and even it was said Jim Carrey played Biden, and he might have been the one that acted like he tripped on the stairs, and that was Jim Carrey. So what I'm saying here is that people don't understand the technology they have. Okay, so even when he first got into office, he started to get hands on probably to the secret space technology. But the secret space program, as William Tompkins has said, one of my star witnesses, you might say, but he also was on Gaia TV and all that. He basically said that NASA, that our secret space program is split between the reptilians and the Pleiadians. So the reptilians sabotage us a lot, but they also try to force us to do, New World Order shit. So Trump is actually battling them. We have a war in our military, and it is going on behind the scenes. And I just wrote a really important article, I think, that is actually based off of a testimony that Juan just did on a video, which, by the way, this website, I think it's called Best News or something. It's not a very interesting name, but anyway, it's a news rag, and they posted the video on there, and then they took it down, and they took it down after I wrote my article about it. So maybe I drew too much attention to it or whatever happened. And they realized that he was dropping some really good truth bombs in that. So kudos to Juan. I'm always happy when he tells the truth, like his father, John F. Kennedy. So, you know, I mean, I'm a person that's not afraid of controversy. I tell the truth and nothing but the truth. And unless I'm protecting a whistleblower, right, in their life and their family. So, yeah, so I don't know if I missed your question there, but.
No, you pretty much answered it. And I just want to tell you, I saw that that William Tompkins interview. I think I saw it originally in 2015, 5 years before I had a podcast, and like that made me get his book selected by extraterrestrials, and like, you know, that was an amazing interview. Like, you really, you know, paved the footwork for a lot of us that are doing. And now it seems like everybody wants to have a podcast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like,
oh
you
yeah,
know, it's, you know, and I try not to be competitive with people, but you know, it's like, it's yeah, but I loved your old interview. I love all your interviews, but yeah.
thank you.
Okay,
Thank
so I
you
wanted to ask you, do you feel like Trump is being influenced by like oh, no problem, yeah. Do you feel like Trump is being influenced by like hyperdimensional AI factions, but like obviously he plays like a crucial role in our sovereignty? So would there be like maybe like a positive AI influencing him or something like that?
Well, that's complex. So whatever the White Hats have Trump has. But the thing is that there's more than one Trump. Trump has doubles like all presidents have, right? Understand that. So apparently, well, this is Fulford is saying this. Other people have said it. It may or may not be completely true. I don't think it's necessarily true, but take it where you will. That the clone of Trump or whatever, the double, is actually, and he's well, Fulford says and I've interviewed Fulford before anyone else in person over in Japan, so I kind of consider I know him better than a lot of people do. But nonetheless, and if you never saw my interview with Fulford, you really should. It's actually amazing. Anyway, so Trump is the Trump. He says he's shorter and fatter. I don't know. That's true. But I think it's kind of interesting. I know I definitely know there are physical differences in the various Trumps. And I think there's more than two. But he also thinks that he's going somewhat rogue. Now, I'm not so sure about that, because in the same video, he said America was going rogue. And that is a New World Order way of looking at America, which is bad on you, Ben. You shouldn't have fucking said that in that video. Sorry. I hope you don't mind if I swear. I actually like swearing. Anyway,
yeah, it's cool.
It's always said that the more intelligent people like to swear. But anyway, so I would say that, he shouldn't have said that, but you got to listen to that video. You got to understand that he doesn't always tell the truth because he is under the thumb of the triad. Understand? So just saying. But so you're saying who's controlling Trump? Well, the real Trump is working with the White Hats and very closely. And they have their own AI. Okay, just like the Illuminati have their own, New World Order has their own AI. But it's interesting because, some people have said, oh, well, the AI that, Trump and the White Hats are using is carbon-based. I cracks me up. Anyway, I just have to say that, an AI is an AI, and AIs are silicon, they go in that direction. So you're not going to get an AI on that level without getting it into the silicon realm, and plus also what is in essence the quantum life form, if you will. So that's a whole thing, and I've delved into AI quite a bit with my whistleblowers over the years. So I was investigating that before it became popular. And so, what can I say? I believe that Melania is actually probably Venusian, and that they are watching out for the Trump administration and Melania and Trump. And she is the communicator. So I think he's going to stay the path. don't think he can be taken off the path. And I do think it's, he's still, the real one is still alive. So some people think that he died and all that crap, but I don't believe that. I just go with my intuition. You have to believe what you believe, and it's all based on, what resonates with you. So, you need to follow that out. It's all good.
Yeah, I agree. I wanted to ask you about some SSP stuff. Like, I know you've spoken a lot about breakaway civilizations and SSP factions, like kind of operating off planet. Do you have any like latest intel you wanted to share about like how some of these groups are interacting, like, or anything interesting that you've come across lately?
Well, you have to kind of take it from the beginning, which is we have a secret space program. It's been operational probably since the 1930s, actually. We are going off planet. We have, colonies on Mars and the moon and the moons of Saturn and Jupiter, I believe, and outside our solar system. And you have to understand that we have technology that allows them to not only track incoming craft and who's driving them, so to speak, but also, track, Solar Warden tracks the solar system, watches everything incoming and outgoing. But the chemtrails are here because if craft are going interdimensional, they just jump, so they go interstellar, and so do we. And so they can jump into this atmosphere anytime they want through portals. And this is why the chemtrails are still happening the way they are. Apparently, the idea being that they have to do them in order to track the incoming and outgoing craft. So this is, actually, we're in a war with aliens as well. Now we're going to be entering a bigger, more demonstrative war, if you will, in the near future, which is actually escalating as I speak. And a lot of the wars we've even had have been backed by aliens, that are either for us or against us. And that's true of the Ukrainian war, by the way. So, you think you're going to stop it by just talking to Earthlings. You're not. Okay. So they have to deal with off-planet races. They're making decisions on your behalf. They never tell you about it. They lie to you. And this is, something that I consider part of my mission, is to get the truth to the people at any cost. So I basically try to do that at all times.
I agree. Do you feel like you kind of just said this, but I'd like to go a little bit deeper. What do you think the off-world agenda is for the Ukraine war? And then to double up on that, do you feel like there's an off-world agenda for Gaza as well?
Oh, definitely. Well, in a sense, those two are related, because you got to remember that what people call the Israelis, as you know, are Khazarian mafia. They come from the Khazars, but also Ukraine. So they consider Ukraine one of their original homelands. So that's no accident. And then you've got this huge child trafficking center in Ukraine, and also underground. They had all these biolabs that were experimenting on especially Slavic people, because I think that Slavic people, and I consider myself Slavic, if you look at my cheekbones. And when I went to Russia, they thought I was Russian. So basically, they are, fighting a war. Now, they are the Israeli faction that is Khazarian, that is also linked up with those. I hate to say it, but, blood drinkers, torturing babies, et cetera, et cetera. So that goes way back. It even goes back to what people don't realize. I went in person to Turkey to Göbekli Tepe, and they also, it's in Ursa, I think it was Ursa, in southern Turkey, but it's near the intersection of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, and that's kind of like considered the home of civilization, if you will. But one
Yeah.
thing that a reporter who looked into that whole area and went there, and I went there too, and I made a small documentary when I went there, and did a lot of investigation, and they had just opened this brand new museum that is fabulous. And basically, they found buried tons of the skulls of little children in that area, tons. So it's
Oh my
really incredible, secret that they lie, they never tell people. So then, people pretend that they think Göbekli Tepe's, this is a very nice place. And, I think that they were doing genetic engineering of humans. They have carved different animals on the stones and stuff like that. And I think that they, were putting humans in a trance. They would walk up the hill to Göbekli Tepe, and they would also abduct them and do genetic engineering on them, and so on and so forth. So it's not necessarily a good place.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and what you mentioned about the Tigris and Euphrates being like the that's like the cradle of civilization from what we know, right? That's where
Right.
supposedly the Anunnaki were. Like I interviewed a guy, he was like an Iraqi soldier, not Iraq, he was an American that was over there. I think during the first Gulf War, and he was saying that he saw like the gates of Babylon and like Marduk, and he said there was evidence of the Anunnaki all over the place. He said it's like plain as day. Did you see
Yeah,
similar?
well, that's also like Iraq and Iran. That whole area is just tons. And also Egypt, carved into the temples, the beings. So, I lead tours in Egypt. And I'm not sure I answered all of your question. Because you wanted more information about, what did you want more information about?
We were trying to figure out if there's an off-world agenda for the Ukraine war
Okay, the Anunnaki are running Israel, okay, in Dimona, underground in Dimona and more. I have a couple whistleblower testimonies on that. One in particular that came forward kind of not so long ago, that they actually tried to disinfo in a huge way. So he must be the real thing. But he disappeared, and the story is just incredible. And actually, I'm trying to think of his name right now, because it's, I have so many interviews that I have to remember everybody's name. It's just like a nightmare, but it'll come to me anyway. Yeah. So what I'm saying is that he revealed stuff about the Anunnaki they didn't want out there. So they basically supposedly destroyed him. He had to escape, go off planet, hide from them. Then he supposedly came back. But he was the one that rescued, was part of the rescue of, a Sasquatch, what you call like a Yeti, Sasquatch, however you want to look at it. And from the Pacific Northwest, that the Air Force kind of abducted or rescued, whatever you want to call that. And first he was underground in the US, and they did experiments on this Sasquatch. And they objected. So they actually went, because he had an Israeli background. His group, which was sort of like a rogue unit, asked for to have Israel allow them in underground to be protected. But unfortunately, they kind of went from the fire into the fire, frying pan, as they say. And because Israel's run by the Anunnaki are actual enemies of the Sasquatches, which are a race from our off planet. And so it's a fascinating story. And I did three interviews with him. Yeah. So, and if you write me, I'll tell you the name of him. The name I just can't remember right offhand.
Yeah, I get that too. I feel like it's they do that. It's like targeting, but before we get too deep in other topics, I wanted to take a minute. When I had Miles Johnson on the other day, he brought up your conference, and I've heard you talk about your conference. Before, I don't want to forget at the end of the interview, do you want to plug your conference and tell people about it, what's going on, and then we can get back into the topic stuff?
Okay, well, you can go to my website, projectcamelotportal.com. And actually, I just put the banner at the top of the website so people could buy tickets easily just by clicking the banner. I also advertise on my Telegram. I have a pretty substantial audience, even though they're chiseling away at it. And I'm not even sure how they do that, but it keeps going down. So it's something really weird. But anyway, I put the banner on there, from time to time, and the link. But it's the link to buy tickets is ufoacademy.com. It takes place at a manor house in England, in Watford, in the country. So it's like a country house, and it's surrounded by grounds, and it's very limited number of tickets. So 125 people, I think, is our limit. And we have 4 speakers on the Saturday and 4 on the Sunday. It's July, 5th and 6th. Hope I have that right. But yeah, I think it's July 5th and 6th, a Saturday and Sunday. And the tickets are pretty cheap. They're like 35 pounds each day. So, it's not a lot.
That's awesome. And who are you going to have?
Awesome speakers. Simon Parks always speaks. Miles is always speaking. And every time they come with new material. So these are really the good speakers. And the ones I have are cutting edge.
That's awesome. Yeah. Speaking of which, you mentioned your Telegram and how the numbers keep going down. I see that happen on my YouTube, and I don't even get a lot of growth on my Rumble. Like I told you, I had a channel with like 20,000 subscribers, and like they cut me off. They canceled me. But they also did it to you. They also did it to Miles. They also did it to Laura Eisenhower.
Yeah, they've done it to Miles a lot of times, and me. Yep.
Yeah. They did it to the guys from Journey to Truth, Chris from Forbidden Knowledge News. So it seems like YouTube doesn't like our community. But also, with that said, it seems like it's not just them. It seems like it's and I'm on YouTube now. But I mean, at this point, I'm like, you know what? It doesn't even. I don't know. So I mean, what I was gonna say is like, do you think there's a solution as far as like, because it's not just them, right? It's a lot of places that are censoring right now, and like, do you think we all just need to like start our own platform or something where we can all post our videos, or like what do you think there's even a solution?
Well, I mean, so far I haven't gotten censored on Rumble. So if they haven't censored me, it's pretty much, free for everyone then, I would say, because there's probably no subject that I don't go into controversy on. But so far I shouldn't maybe even say this, knock on wood or whatever you want to say. But yeah, so anyone they're banning is probably telling much more of the truth than all the ones they're not. So, and you can see, if you follow Nino at all, you see how he goes through all the fucking hoops to, stay on YouTube. But he gets away with murder over there, basically, in my opinion. I mean, they all I have to do is show my face and they want to kill me. So.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like I've never understood that. I wonder if it's just the AI. Like, I wonder if it's like the AI that triggers something, because I've noticed some people get picked on more than others, and then some people are able.
It's really not an equal playing field.
Yeah, I've experienced it. They do it to me like constantly. So I'm at the point where I'm like, I feel like you, like, like Rumble hasn't censored me yet either. Knock on wood, but I mean, like I don't know. Yeah, it's crazy though, It's
I think that the White Hats and Trump should actually sue YouTube right out off the fucking planet. I mean, they have been done so many illegal things with me. It's just insane. Okay. And their stupid community standards where they try to keep the truth away from people with some kind of nonsense. It's just, it's a really fucked up organization. Very, very, they're doing, we're supposed to have freedom of the press in this country. So it's not just censoring, a person, like a private person. They are actually censoring what is in essence the press. I am the press. Okay. I actually, I studied journalism in college, for God's sake. And then we have citizen journalists like you are probably. So, they have no right. Okay. That's illegal. It's against the Constitution. I mean, this has got to stop. And I am surprised that we've made it this far in the Trump administration and they haven't actually slammed that fucking place. Sorry to say.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you 100%, I mean, because I felt like I gave 5 years of my life to, I was building on the side. I was building with Rumble, and I have my stuff on Odyssey too, and on audio like everybody else. And,
right.
But I mean, like I gave 5 years of my life to YouTube, and I had built an audience, and like, it's weird because it's like, you don't
20,
just
20 years.
What, 20 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was there at the very beginning. I became a YouTube director right out of the gate in 2005. So what is it, 2025? They actually deleted my channel in 2021. Robert David Steele, a CIA agent, said one sentence about COVID in the middle of an interview, and I had a psychic premonition about the show. I took it off my channel. I put it into unlisted. And they still gave me a strike and deleted my entire channel overnight. And I had thousands and thousands of videos, like probably around 2,000 or more.
Yeah, I heard they hold on to our channels for 10 years. Like, it's like I've thought about
I'd like that. I wish. Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
I get this message. I can't even, I can't, like, let's say I want to follow you and I just want to, click follow or whatever. I'm not allowed to do that either. I can't follow people on YouTube. I can't.
What?
No, I can't do anything. You don't understand. I just, I can't sign in any way, shape, or form on YouTube.
Wow. Holy shit. That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
I didn't know you had it that bad. Wow.
No, yeah. It's really bad. It's super
so
bad.
You feel the pain. Yeah, you definitely it's wow. Well, does it help having your own website? Like, do you feel like having your own website like helps like funnel traffic?
Well, it saves my life, really. Because I've had my own website really this whole time. So, but it's a lot of work, and everyone I try to hire other than this one person, which is Tommy, who's been with me for ages, but he goes off and does other jobs and doesn't want to do anymore. But anyway, he's back right now, thank God. But so anyone I hire, they screw my website up, and some really bad. Some actually break the fucking thing. I mean, it's really bad, so I have a really hard time with that.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we had a question from the audience. Karen, Karen McDonald. She was on my show yesterday with someone else, Doc Ram, Dr. Richard Allen Miller, and they were talking about the pole shift.
Cool. Yeah.
Karen wanted me to ask you if your thoughts on the pole shift and like if you have an opinion on it.
Well, I have done several interviews with you're calling him Doc Ram, but Richard Allen Miller. And he's a very brilliant physicist, for those that don't know, and highly recommend my shows with him. But I mean, I have evidence of this type of thing as well. I have precog dreams of lands rising like opposite San Francisco out of the water, and various things. I don't know if they'll really happen. I also had this guy called Eddie Page. His name's Eddie Page, but he's not on the circuit anymore. He kind of like disappeared as far as I know. But anyway, he considered himself a Pleiadian, but he was part of what I would consider a rogue Pleiadian group. He was not like a good guy. I mean, he was actually a little bit, on the negative side, in my opinion. But he was trying to tell the truth about what he saw in the future. He was basically saying, oh, you humans are going to, he was always fire and brimstone and all this horrible Bible stuff. Like, you're going to pay and you're going to, all this stuff. So I basically broke off. I stopped, I wouldn't let him on my channel anymore. But before he left, he was talking about the Juan de Fuca fault line, which is in opposite Oregon, where there's a volcano now that is erupting. And the volcano is something called the axial something volcano. And
is that it?
What?
Axial seamount?
Yeah. So axial seamount. But anyway, it's up near Oregon and off the coast, and it's very active apparently right now. And it could trigger the Juan de Fuca fault, which is right there. It bumps up against that volcano. And if it does, then that fault line actually will trigger a bunch of volcanic eruptions, including what I've seen in the future: Mammoth, Mount Rainier, Yellowstone, the big ones. So that will cause a lot of earth changes, but it's not going to be like a termination event. There's another word for it. But anyway, so I don't, and I don't think Richard Allen Miller thinks it is either, although he may think it's worse than I think it is, what's going to be happening. And I'm not so sure that it won't be like an unnatural occurrence. In other words, the dark side has been trying to do a pole flip for a very long time, and they failed last time. They were stopped in around 2012 when it was predicted, back then. So we're kind of coming around again and getting those predictions again. So, my attitude towards the future is just bring it on. Whatever it is, bring it on. I don't care. There's just too much going on with humans on planet Earth. And, I'm kind of like in the Nietzsche point of view. You need to embrace your future, embrace everything, and allow what's going to happen, because that's part of the learning curve. And so running and hiding is not going to work. Okay, it's just not. Yeah. So I just don't look at the future like other people do. All right, but I also take things with a grain of salt. I don't necessarily I just don't have that kind of personality. I'm not a down, In fact, one of the reasons I split from Bill a long time ago was he was a prepper. He wanted to do prepping, and he wanted to prepare for all the bad things that were going to happen. And I just can't do that. That's just not my nature. I just need to, wake up in the morning, be really happy, and think about what I can do for fun that day.
I kind of agree. I've never been much of a prepper either, to be honest. Like, the way I look at it is I'm like, well, if something's going to happen, it's going to happen, and there's nothing I can do about it. And I figured this way: if it's in a world like an end times chaos type world, I don't even want to be in that kind of world. I don't want to go back to Stone Ages. So I'll find some way to, I won't exist here anymore. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, if worse comes to worse, I'm out of here anyway, because who wants to be here anyway? I'm not going to cling desperately. As far as I know, I'm not going to cling to life. But I also see a positive future. So this is what's weird. I do see earth changes. I just don't know. The one thing that's really hard to do is to figure out what comes in what order. So I have seen lots of things in the future, like amazing things, and I've seen very good things. Okay. But we're not going to go into a golden age. That is just so much bull. But we will have good things, happen. And in a sense, Trump is a good thing. The White Hat's winning is a good thing. The changes they're trying to make, the fact that they are really trying to find the pedophiles out there. Okay, there's a real emphasis on that within the White Hats that nobody seems to realize, which really pisses me off, because these people are risking their lives day in and day out to rescue the children, and they should be given credit for this. It just pisses me off that they're so secret about everything, because they can't get the credit because they try to hide, all the time.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, do you think with all the stuff that's being done to humans, like chemtrails, weaponized weather, food poisons in our food, poisons in our water, I mean, when I talked to James Bartley, he thinks that it's some kind of reptilian terraforming thing. And by the way, it's getting colder here in Pittsburgh. Like I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and what's weird is like it's not a real warm state to begin with, but like we would always have like hot summers, bro. Like we would have real hot summers, but now it's like last night I was walking late at night and it was like 50, 40 degrees, and it rains every day in Seattle. So I'm definitely seeing like weird changes, so it makes me think, are we being terraformed or something? Did you ever consider that?
There's no doubt about it. I mean, we've been invaded by aliens forever, and we've been genetically re-engineered over and over again. But right now, they have been, even for the whole time I've been in Camelot, which is 20 years, they have been terraforming this planet. And people that are, into weather and like Dane Wigington and the other weather guys and whatnot, they see these terraforming things. They see the weather wars, and they see all the stuff. So one of the things they said is that they wanted a more methane-like environment. And Duncan O'Finian, a super soldier that I interviewed several times over the years, talked about seeing in the future. He had dreams of the future as well, and he said that he saw rivers of methane on fire going up through Texas from the Gulf. And so he said, when that happens, to be, packed and ready to go kind of thing.
Yeah. I remember exactly. The whole reason why I was able to get in contact you was you included me on an email, and you were stressing the importance to a bunch of us podcasters about the importance of Ashana Dean's work, which I don't take her work lightly. I do feel like it's very important. And I actually have a couple friends, Jermaine and Marvel Bliss. They're part of the consciousness work group. They said, Marvel told me that she felt like they kind of re-released some of that info back into the community during the pandemic. So other people see it as well, but I probably don't talk about it enough. Did you want to talk about her work a little bit and the importance of it?
Sure. As far as, well, in a sense, I do. I actually traveled to India with her and her group, and had downloads while I was traveling around, and I would get her the same downloads as she was telling people. I would have already gotten that download 5 minutes before she starts talking. I had some really mystical things happen on that trip, and yeah, I mean, I admire Ashana Dean a lot. I think she's a wonderful woman. And I think, she's a vessel that is getting the information and basically downloading it, and then, writing it up, and also making all these incredible drawings that she does. She's incredibly skilled in graphic, I guess you might call it graphic design or whatever. The trouble is she's very secret. She only allows people to pay quite a bit of money to do her workshops. Now her workshops are all online, but she's still out there, believe it or not. And there's some things that I may not completely agree with, in more or less the way she runs her organization is not my style. But everyone has to do what they're supposed to do. And she, I believe, is been told to protect herself much more so than I have been told. So I am protected as well. I'm sure of that. Otherwise, I'm sure I wouldn't be alive right now. I've been attacked so much, but I think that she is really very careful in that regard. So that's why she's more private and charges a lot of money and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I heard she won't even do conferences anymore or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I was very fortunate. I was one of the only people ever to interview her. And that's also the dreams of Wingmakers. I was the only person out there that was allowed to interview him as well forever, other than his webmaster, So I consider that an honor that both those people honored me in that way.
Wow, that's fascinating. Yeah, I've never seen anybody interview Ashana Dean. I'm gonna check out that. And can people still access
my
that?
interviews? 6 hours of interviews with her.
Do you have that available on? Is it on the Project Camelot portal, or is it on Rumble, or where can people see that?
It's on my website. I mean, the way it works is I embed the videos from Rumble and Odyssey onto my website. So you can actually go to Odyssey or you can go to Rumble. The older videos tend to be more on Odyssey. We're trying to transfer a lot of videos right now and copy them over to Rumble so that Rumble has everything as well. But it's a slow process. But basically, if you go to my website, there's a huge search bar. You just scroll down just a little bit and you just enter. In her case, the easiest one to remember is the last name, Deane. But Ashana it's actually spelled exactly as it sounds. She also goes by Asha, which is E-ASHA, but that's a little harder for people. So I'd say, just do a search for Ashana. And I still keep her that name. So her whole name is actually Asha Ashana Dean, so, and I don't
feel
know
like
if she uses Dean.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to
I'm
interrupt.
sorry. What were you saying?
I was saying, I feel like her work is so detailed. Like I have Voyagers too, and like it's so detailed.
Amazing.
It has coming from somewhere, It's like
Yeah.
I don't.
You can't make this stuff up.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. It's like it's amazing information,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to ask you about was like SSP whistleblowers because like like a lot of new people are coming out with memories, like and I try to give people a platform, but like how do you think we should be vetting new SSP whistleblowers as media? And like because there's a lot of people with podcasts out there too that are going to be watching this as well. And when I know for me personally, when I get someone who just comes to me and they tell me they have memories, I don't judge them. I give them a space, but then sometimes I can be a little bit, skeptical in my own life. I guess that's where the name comes from. But, like, so do you think we should be vetting people a certain way, like whistleblowers?
Well, I mean, I go with my intuition on people. So they can tell me or show me this or show me that or, talk for 5 hours, but I don't go by that. I really go by my intuition on just about everything in life. So I listen to other people and I listen to their stuff and I listen to when they tell me things that, I'm supposed to know or do or whatever it is, but I never do what people say. That's my, I'm a rebel. My book is called Rebel Gene, so don't mess with me because I'm going to do exactly what I want. But the thing is that, I think that, her works are amazing. And I think that people that are coming out now, I mean, I think I got the cream of the crop in terms of actual vetted whistleblowers. Now the people that come out, it's much harder to vet them. But, for example, Gary Nolan, he's a scientist in the Black Projects. So they made him come forward. He seems like a sweet enough man, but every now and then he has to lie. That just goes with the territory. Jake, what's his name? Jake Barber. He's also a relatively new whistleblower. I don't necessarily think he's always on the right track, but I think it's good that he's doing what he's doing. He's trying to do this thing called Skywatcher, I think it's called. And I think Nolan's working with him as well. And they're trying to bring down UFOs and talk to them and all that kind of stuff. Then there's lots of so-called super soldiers. We had a whole rash of them many years ago. It became very popular and stuff. One thing that I know is that when people lie, I can kind of tell no matter what. I get a sense. And also get a sense when they tell the truth. So I kind of go with that. But in some ways, it doesn't matter. Like if a whistleblower wants to come forward, they're not always going to tell you the truth anyway, because they need to protect themselves and their family. So sometimes they will pepper their stuff with lies. And it's almost, in some cases, it's a deal that they make with the CIA or the NSA or whoever it is, So you have to be a bit sympathetic with that, and other than I actually, somebody wrote to me, I think it was today, and they said, with all the fake stuff out there, how can anyone tell the truth about anything anymore? Because they can lie to you so easily. And I brought their attention to something called deep capture, which is a movie or a television series that came out, the British made many years ago, actually. But I actually unearthed it. I saw it, and then I wrote about it. And they took down my website over it. So, and this is a few years ago. And that was what they were doing, is taking video in real time and putting words in politicians' mouths that they never said those things. And so they've been doing this kind of, screwed up stuff for quite a long time. Now we have AI doing it all the time, right? And it's only going to get worse. So my attitude towards that is that, think about, why would God do this to humans? And my philosophy about God is that God is God of everything, light and dark, okay, yin and yang. And so as far as I'm concerned, this is like, a great testing ground to find out if you're really as good as you think you are, or if you think you've learned anything as a soul. And so it just goes with the territory that we're going to be challenged while we're here. And, you weren't just brought here to eat bonbons, as I say, and lay on the couch. I mean, everyone has a mission. And so if, it's not the end of the world that we're being challenged by AI and clones, and, it is going to get worse. But nonetheless, I think that we're going to have to get smarter and smarter. It's just like survival of the fittest in a way, whatever you want to say.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Have you seen an uptick in like lab abductions, military abductions, or alien abductions with the people that you're interviewing?
No, I think that, the hugest amount went on, probably 20 years ago. It tapered off since then. But I was an abductee, so, I mean, I was in that category. But I still think, a lot of the indigos are being tapped. A lot of the, crystal children and all the different kind of children out there are being tapped by various alien races. I mean, we're having visitations, whether they're actually abducting as much, whether they're implanting stuff or not. I think some of the techniques have sort of become more refined, and even the military does these things. So they track people. I mean, I have a tracker, that's in my arm. It's been there forever. It's a round ball thing. I don't really like it, but sometimes it's a good thing, because it might, I'm often told I'm Pleiadian, which I may be, at least in part.
I get that. I get that. I get like a resonance with that. That resonates. You could be, I think, for sure. Yeah.
I've been told this many times. William Tompkins told me to my face I was.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Working with the real Pleiadians.
Yeah, that's amazing. But we had one more question from the audience. This was from Sovereign Cosmic Wildman. He wants me to ask you about an interview you did in 2010. I'll put up on the screen. He says, do you know what happened to Aaron McCullough? Interview you did back in 2010. Do you know what happened to that guy?
McCullum. Yeah, and still on my website. I interviewed him several times. I got a download to ask him if he was a dolphin-human hybrid, and he said yes, which kind of surprised me because I didn't know that before I asked him the question. I was given that question during an interview by the, ETs that hang about and everything. He was a really cool guy, actually. I liked him, and I think he was very intelligent. They did turn him into a dolphin human hybrid. He did, a lot of work for the military. When I first met him, he was suffering terribly, and he was just a sort of a paranoid mess, but that went away. And then he became a podcaster, actually, and, got braver, and I think, really got out there. And then he sort of disappeared again. So I've never heard from him since he disappeared.
Yeah. It's like 3 or 4 people in the audience want me to ask you about Mark Richards. I'll just tell my light went on. I'll just tell the people in the audience. I got a chance to interview Captain Mark Richards' wife, Joanne. She's a really nice lady, but I wouldn't know as much as Kerry. I mean, I just tell you, Kerry, like before I even had a podcast, I was watching all those Captain Mark Richards interviews where you would
cool.
go to the prison and you would retain all the information because they wouldn't let you record. And I know you had to, like, that had to be hard to like retain everything he was telling you, then put it out afterwards. That's amazing.
Very, very difficult, very draining actually. But I am releasing the books actually very soon. We're editing them right now. There's going to be 2 books of all the interviews, and it's going to be pretty cool when I get to publish that. I'm still in touch with him, but it's very sporadic. I'm in touch with him over sort of this AI. I don't know if it's an AI. It's a online prison thing where you have to sign up and all this crazy shit. By the way, he is divorced from Joanne, so they had a huge falling out like a couple of years ago, and they've been divorced now. I don't know for how long, maybe a year, maybe 2 years or something like that.
Yeah, I would say you're probably exactly right, because I think I interviewed her like 2 years ago or something like that. Like it was like, yeah, something like that. But yeah, that's that story is so fascinating about Captain Mark Richards. And like, do you believe he's really innocent? Like, I mean, I'm not saying he isn't. I'm not judging or anything. Like, do you believe
no
he
way
really was
for murder? He was framed for murder of a pedophile, no less. And it was 3 young guys that actually did the murder. They claimed he was the mastermind. And that was, I think the secret space program spotted him. He told me that they saw that he and his father were going to become whistleblowers. So they actually tracked him, and then they put him in prison. And I guess they concocted this sort of insane thing. What happened was one of the boys that was very instrumental in the murder, that actually is in this, believe it or not, the same prison as Mark. He, and I think he's still in prison, if I recall. But yeah, he was molested by a pedo when he was a child. So he had a very serious reason to want to kill a pedo. So you can see how the secret space program, if they wanted to actually put Mark in prison, and Mark was doing carpentry, some kind of carpentry job for this guy. And because he had a carpentry, I don't know, building houses or doing whatever kind of thing. And it's all on my website if you want to follow delve into the, is it real or all that kind of stuff. I interviewed him about the murder and all that stuff. But anyway, so I'm saying how it was easy for them to track this guy who was actually taking a class. So Mark used to teach a class to young people in the Marin County area because he wrote books. He's a prolific writer, and he wrote a book, which, kind of famous book. And it was about, it was kind of like back, I read it, but I don't remember it that well. But it was back in the days of kind of like King Arthur, but it took place in Marin County. And he thought that area was kind of an enclave of the Arthurian legend stuff. So that's what he wrote in the book. And then he had some students that wanted to learn from him. So, and he's a natural teacher. He's very brilliant. And, he's like very calm. And he was a captain in the military and the secret space program, captain of a Starship Enterprise type vessel. And also, he was one of the few people that could fly an AI craft back in that day called Minerva. And he was the only one at the time that she would let ever fly in her craft. She was left behind when the race that created her destroyed their planet. And so she's been traveling the solar systems with an S, since then. And I guess she became friends with Mark Richards. it's really a fascinating story. I mean, he's got so much brilliant stuff, just freaking brilliant. I mean, that's all I can say. It's kind of like the Ashana Dean. You can't make this stuff up, that type of thing.
Yeah. Kriya wanted me to ask you here. I'll put it up on the screen. This is just a basic question. She wants to know. She says, Kerry, what is the craziest experience you ever had with the paranormal? Something that stood out the most?
I don't know. Because most of my life is kind of like that. I was always, I could talk to dead people type of thing. And I didn't like that, by the way. So I kind of I screen it out. I don't like really talking to, no offense, dead people, but I don't really like it. I don't know. Actually, I don't know what to say because I live every day as if it's a paranormal day. And I see, signs and signals and get messages and all that kind of thing all the time. So I'm trying to think if there was anything like massive. I mean, in kind of, way, I feel like my whole life. Recently, I realized that my whole life has been so orchestrated, and I don't think it's been orchestrated by me, to tell you the truth. I know it sounds weird, but I realized that things that have happened, I didn't have control over those things, but they actually happened like clockwork. And like I was living in New York City and doing all kinds of meditation and stuff. And that's when I also I was involved in the Montauk Project, believe it or not. And I was quite young at that time. And I ended up 4 years to the day leaving New York City, but I didn't consciously do that. I didn't plan that. Okay. So I don't understand that. And now I'm having another one of those kind of things with my whole, I'll say this here, but I'll kind of be careful. But the bottom line is that I'm being censored, okay, and I'm also being blacklisted. My URLs are blacklisted, and which we just found out about, and they target me like seriously in these weird ways, and so they are, and that includes the white hats who have done things to stop me, okay. So the good guys and the bad guys try to stop me because both sides don't want me to tell the real truth. So it's gotten very, very difficult for me to do what I'm actually supposed to be doing, which is interviewing whistleblowers, because any whistleblower that tries to talk to me, they tell them ahead of time, don't talk to me. I'm not sure what they say, because once in a while it gets back to me, like Peter Paget, someone I interviewed in the UK, he said, and he works for the Queen, and he said, he's an agent, and he said, he laughed when he met me, and he said, I was told you were CIA, and I can see you obviously are not. And it was just actually really funny that you tell me that to my face, So what can I say? I am in a very weird position right now, and they have tried to cut me off in every way. Even my friends that are in this, so-called colleagues, right? It's very weird. And, maybe if you're listening to this, you can stop trying to stop me from doing telling the truth. It would be nice. Juan 07 has tried to stop me. I mean, it's just insane. So I basically decided, fuck this. I'm going back to the movie business. So then about 2 months ago, I decided to start doing what I was doing right before I got into Camelot and go back to the movie business. So I'm actually doing that now. I'm doing two things. I'm doing this job still. I'm not going to stop, trying to make it as a podcaster, whatever you want to call broadcaster, interviewing people. But trust me, I mean, it's very difficult for me to get a person to agree to do an interview, other than somebody who is a complete unknown and desperate, to have people, listen to them, that kind of thing. But that's not interesting to me. It's not interesting for me to talk to people that are newbies, and people that are, I don't give a shit to sell products. I hate the health thing. But I have people that are doing good products that have come to me, so I interview them. But what the fuck? That's not what I signed up for. You know what I'm saying? So I'm getting very frustrated in my job. So, I don't want to go in there. There's also this sort of whole echelon of people that want to be spiritual teachers, but I'm very skeptical of them and people like that. I don't want to give somebody a platform and make them famous, so that they can ply their wares and, and manipulate someone else's mind. I just don't want to do that either. That's just not, it's not me. So I'm doing two things now, and I'm going to continue to do two things for as long as I can. But I'm just saying, so if you're out there, a whistleblower who actually has the guts to talk to me, that would be great. Let me know. But it's become very difficult, and they don't like my articles. They think, because I criticize the white hats and some of the decisions they've made, and but I can go into a recent white hat thing that I actually wrote on my website, which is really important, and it's actually supporting the white hats. Because can I do that before we close down here?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, it's not going to take a long time. Anyway, I have I have this Substack. So it's a Substack article where, as I might have been saying, that Juan O'Savin did a recent interview. Okay, he was with two other guys, and I'm sorry, I don't even know their names. And it was on this thing called Best News or something, some name like that. And I stumbled on it just by accident, because I don't actually listen to him much anymore. Anyway, but so he was talking, and he was actually telling some real truth, one thing after another, which was great. And so I decided to write an article to get the truth he was talking about out to the public, because a lot of people have gotten fed up with him, because in a lot of his stuff, he goes on these tirades about religion and all that kind of stuff, and he also goes in circles, and sometimes he also misleads people. But in this particular video, he's telling the truth. So one of the things he said is that this incident where Russia was attacked by the Ukraine, the attack was from NATO. It wasn't really from Ukraine. Ukraine is just a proxy. It's a proxy war. It's NATO's war, the New World Order, against Putin and Russia, because Russia does not follow their nonsense. And so they had planned an attack in the NATO military, which is supposed to be run by Trump, and he's the commander in chief. Okay, and the United States is the leader of NATO. This is the point of view. Okay, that's what Juan says. We run NATO. But they decided to do the attack, but they didn't tell Trump. And no one around him in any of the intelligence agencies that supposedly work for him told him in advance. So supposedly, according to Juan, he didn't know. And he has got in touch with Putin and told him, look, he didn't know in advance that particular attack was going to be done. So it was secret, which means that, you can appreciate if you're commander in chief and you're the president of the United States and your intelligence agencies are lying to you. Okay. And this is like a World War III kind of attack. It was so huge, the attack on Russia, that actually did some real damage, at least according to Juan. And in this case, I think he's telling the truth. So he's making a very stressing a point, saying that this is tantamount to a coup in our government. So it's yet another coup. Okay. And that's a whole nother ballgame with the Biden show and the whole coup then. So what we're talking about is the people in the intelligence agencies that are still sitting in their jobs, even during the whole reign of Biden and the Biden show and the whole bullshit, unfortunately have not been fired, which they should be. Okay. So he should do what Kennedy wanted to do, which is clean that fucking place out, And it's 17 different, I think at least, intelligence agencies, and those are the ones they tell us about it. So what I'm saying is that this is actually huge, because here you have an attack on Russia where Russia could have retaliated with a nuke. It was that bad. And it was done by NATO without Trump's knowledge. So the United States would have been wrapped in, and our troops, in theory, our troops are also over there as part of the NATO troops. So in other words, we have, it's not just the intelligence agencies, and Juan does not say this, but anyone who has a brain is going to know it, that our military is also involved in NATO. And so the generals that are NATO generals from the US also didn't tell him this was going to happen. So they are rogue generals, and they put us in a position to where we are responsible for an attack on Russia, and Russia could retaliate with a nuclear response. And this just happened a couple weeks ago, like literally.
Wow.
So all of this stuff happening right now, and the riots in LA and this and that and the other, this is one of the most important moments, because I'm tracking how Trump is being used and abused. Okay. And the White Hats are also having challenges to everything they've been working for all these years right this moment. And the American people are none the wiser. They just have no fucking clue. So it was really amazing that Ron would come out, and he laid it out very smoothly and clearly. So there was no question what he was saying. And then, boom, they took it off that news thing, that best news, just boom. I wrote my article, and like a few hours later, I think it was 12 midnight or whatever, they went in and took the video down. Luckily, I went over to Rumble. I searched for it. And Juan had it up on his channel wisely. So the people working with Juan finally got a clue, after several years of me telling him, you got to make records and record all your videos, because they won't stay. So anyway, that's the story that I wrote about. And I just want to say kudos to Juan, because he puts himself in danger when he is so good and tells the real truth. But the funny thing is that nobody notices unless you really pay close attention. And I will venture to say that probably none of my colleagues are even aware of what I'm talking about. Most of them. Now, I don't know if Jacob's going to know and talk about it or whatever, but if he watches this or gets wind of it, then, maybe. But, I gave them my article. If they read my fucking article, then they'll know. But, and then listen to the video, right? So this is very interesting, because what we have is, there's a famous book called 7 Days in May. So I called my article 7 Days in June, which actually took place during kind of a 7-day period in which the intelligence agencies are hiding a major attack that's going to happen. And then they do it, and Trump didn't know anything about it. And he's the commander in chief. If you do that, then you could embroil the whole world in a nuclear war, and all because our intelligence agencies are fucking liars. So,
wow.
So it's, very important, and I appreciate you allowing me to cover that.
Well, I got a question. With shit like this happening, how are we ever supposed to clean up this country? And like our
I have no idea. People have no idea what they're up against. Okay. They're up against Satanists. These people they'll kill you in a heartbeat. They could care less. They torture people for fun. This is a very difficult time and a very difficult war that we're in. So,
do you believe a lot of us signed up to come here? Like, do you believe that there's soul contact before life, and that a lot of us do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird, right? It's I just wanted to ask you this real quick before we go. My friend Sovereign Cosmic Mama wants to ask you about Sean David Morton. Like, I got to interview Sean a couple of times. She says, you have any exclusive info from your friendship with Sean David Morton about his passing?
No. No, I think briefly, I think he visited me right around the time when he died, but I haven't seen or heard from him since then. I'm in touch with his wife, Melissa. They're going to have some kind of a wake celebration, strangely, quite a long time later, but it's going to be in the fall. And I guess I'll be on it. It's going to be some kind of Zoom, invite thing. But yeah, I mean, they killed him. Okay. So, just as easily as they would have put it, gun to his head. So, I worked my ass off to get him cures and all this kind of thing and healers and everything under the sun. But, he was targeted and he was tortured while he was in prison. Horrible stuff happened to him. It's really sad. And he was my good friend. So, I wish he wasn't dead. I thought, he was going to still be around and we were going to, he was going to stick with all of us, because I think he was a very valuable member of our, of our resistance, if you will, even though he kind of got mixed up about what side he was on towards the end of his life, sadly.
He always kept a really positive attitude. It seemed like I was interviewing him like right towards the end before he got real sick, and like he always seemed to be so like joyful, even though he was going through like hell.
Yeah, amazing guy, very amazing, brilliant mind, just so brilliant. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask you real quick, like
if you're interested in Sean, I have tons of interviews with him. It's really kind of crazy.
That's awesome. And did you have an opinion on, did you hear about what happened to Renetta Jones? I don't know if she was ever on your show, but she was on my show a lot. She was on like James Rink's Super Soldier Talk. She was targeted. I mean, they said she had cancer, but like she was definitely targeted as well, and, she was definitely a super soldier. I don't know if you had heard about that or if you had an opinion or anything.
What was the name again?
Renetta Jones.
Renetta? No, I don't think I've ever met a person with that name.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess, thank you for answering all our questions, and thank you so much. I just wanted to tell you that, I started my show in 2020, and like I was watching your shows from like 2015 on, you were one of the first people that, I used to listen to Art Bell back in the day, but then like in 2015 I had my reawakening, and like you were one of the first people. So like this is like a real honor for me. You're like one of my heroes. So like thank you. This was amazing.
Thank you. Well, you seem like a good guy, and I don't know if you have a story, but if you do, you can contact me and come on my show.
I don't really. I'm more, it's more like
with a name like typical skeptic. You sound you don't sound so interesting, but when I see you, I think that perhaps you have a story.
I may come out with it someday, but right now I'm just kind of like, I'm trying to figure out, people have told me that I've been abducted. People have told me I've been the SSP. I don't have any memories, The only thing I do have remember is I had a bad entity attachment for 2 months. I got rid of it, but it was really bad. It was like, it was like a really nasty energy that was like lingering on me. And it was like very physical. You could feel it, it would go up and down my back and stuff. It was really bizarre. It was targeted because, like, the military, they can use entities and shit like that. I feel like they do. And I feel like that's in full swing. I feel like we're going to be targeted more now. With what's going on. Do you kind of think that's what they're doing? Like they're ramping up their efforts, or?
No, I actually think it's going another direction. I think that because they're kind of losing at this juncture, I think that and they have a motivation for the truth to come out in some ways. That's the trouble. So that's why we have a disclosure thing right now. I think that they're allowing a lot of it, and some good things can come in, sort of in the wash. But so I don't think it's that bad right now. I do think there are plenty of people that are losing it. But they're kind of not all, they're not on the good side. They're not on the already developed side. They were sort of behind the 8 ball to start out with, and now they're losing it. Okay, I do think that's happening. So, but I think we're in a very weird time, and I don't know where it's going to all head, but I hope for the best.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I was just going to say, is there anything else you wanted to share or anything you want to promote before we close out?
I don't think so. I mean, just go to my website, go to my Substack, go to my Telegram, subscribe to everything I do if you possibly can. It's free in almost every case, but it really helps me, to stay around and to continue to do this work, which is, very hard. I mean, it's very difficult work that I do, but it is a labor of love. So, I'll wake up at 4 a.m. and write articles. It's like insane.
Yeah, I'm going to try to get into Substack. I mean, I have a Substack, but I haven't done anything with it yet because, like, I know they want exclusive material, right? So it's like, I know you have to put out exclusive stuff. Isn't that correct, right?
They're pretty loose. I don't know. You can do just about anything over there, I think.
Wow.
Their setup is very simple. They do everything for you. You just say you want it or you don't. In my case, my Substack is free. I'm not going to charge people, on upfront. All I have is, if you want to join and you want to pay something, you can, but I don't do that any kind of. On my website, I do have, I wish people would join. It's dirt cheap, like $3 a month. Hello. But, and that's for like some videos. But to tell you the truth, over the years, most of my videos are still free. They're all on Odyssey, tons of Odyssey, all on Rumble. They're all free. Now, all my conferences over the years, we're putting all my conference, for years and years, I do a conference every year, my Awake and Where, in England, and wonderful speakers, wonderful information, and it's all still, all this information I've been gathering all these years is still very valid. There's actually probably nothing that I've interviewed people about that is like no longer matters or something like that. Because we were always on the cutting edge, So now everyone's doing the same thing I do, but, but we were there first. So in certain cases.
You're the OG of our community. You really are. And I just want to say we all, a lot of us really look up to you, and, we really appreciate your work. So thank you so much.
Well, what they're looking up to is my whistleblowers, appreciate that they look up to me as well. But, the bottom line is the people that put their lives on the line to tell the truth. That's what matters.
Yeah. But at the same time, you're putting your life on the line as well.
Yeah. I do. And I did, and I've been attacked, super attacked, but, so far I'm all right. I'm good.
Yeah. Well, this has been amazing. Again, thank you so much, Kerry. And it was really great talking to you and chopping it up. And yeah, guys, if you aren't subscribed, subscribe to me on Rumble. I see we have 100 people watching on Rumble. It's Typical Skeptic Podcast on Rumble. And on the new YouTube channel, it's at TruthSeeker5197. We have 100 people watching. So we had a big crowd tonight. Thank you, everybody. And I'll be back tomorrow. And have a good night. And thank you, Kerry. And have a good night, everyone. Take care.